good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when this finds you. This is going to be a little different than the video content I usually release because I want to talk to you about things that are happening in society. And sadly, you have entities, organizations, and people out there who are trying to do everything they can to suppress and silence the truth. Anybody that's speaking the truth, this new woke generation wants you to silence them. And we don't want boys to grow up to be men, and we don't want girls to grow up and be women. And we want to allow children as young as 4 and 5 to say, to change their gender. That was assigned to them at birth by God. And you look at the Constitution, and you got a lot of people out there that don't think the Constitution should be followed. Well, I know a lot over the years I've talked to black people, and a lot of them have said, well, the Constitution wasn't written for us. Well, we want the Constitution to be written for us when it comes to benefit us. And the people that don't want the Constitution are the exact type of people that your politicians want. Because your politicians are still trying to do everything they can to invalidate the Constitution. Because if you think about it, when you think about violation of our rights, yeah, we've had individuals, that might have violated us personally. But when you think of violation of our rights as a whole, all of your violations have come at the hands of the people you have elected to protect those God given rights. And, you got 81 million people that supposedly voted for Joe Biden. All of a sudden, these people have become, as quiet as my grandmother would say, as a rat pissing on cotton. And if you can get that analogy, that's pretty quiet. But that's something my grandmother used to say all the time. And we think about it, household debt increased by $1 trillion in 2021. That's trillion with a T, not billion with a B, not million with an M. $1 trillion in 2021. This is under y'all man Joe Biden, Joe Chala Biden. Many people have started tapping into their savings accounts or their retirement accounts to stay afloat, just to stay afloat. Foreclosures increased by 180% in 2021. Now, as if everything else is not bad enough, Homeland Security came out and warned us to expect an explosion in domestic violence over the next few months. I've read reports and I've heard reports about people sitting in grocery store parking lots waiting for people, mainly women, to come out of grocery stores, and then they're following them home and stealing their groceries. Other folks are drilling holes in car gas tanks in order to steal gas out of people's vehicles. Inflation is approaching 10%, a level that hasn't been seen in almost 50 years. Gas has exploded in cost. Food has exploded in cost. Uh, Food is up over 12% over this time last year. Did your job give you a raise, a 12% raise? Well, we all know the answer to that. I don't care what kind of work you do, you ain't getting no 12% raise. And that 12% increase in food is the highest it's been since 1979. It's been said, I've seen a lot of reports here recently that diesel only has an 8-week supply left unless some changes are made. Now, do you realize how important that is? That means your trucks are not going to be able to run if something doesn't change. That means your farm equipment is not going to be able to run if something doesn't change. So if your farm equipment ain't running and your trucks ain't running, you don't have access to food and goods. I don't think y'all realize how serious this stuff is because you got Joe Biden's press secretary coming on TV and telling people the economy is doing great. I mean, what is she smoking? I mean, have you ever heard the term useful idiots? I mean, you know, I'm just asking a question, but I don't think people are understanding the impact these things are going to have on their lives. Electricity rates have doubled since last year. Well, they actually didn't double in reality until over the last couple of months when the media started putting out there, electricity gonna skyrocket. We're gonna have rolling blackouts. Next thing you know, I saw the rates in a week's time go from 12 cent a kilowatt hour up to 20 cent a kilowatt hour. That was just in a week after the media started pushing that narrative. Yeah, I look at that stuff because I'm always trying to find, the best deal that's gonna work for me and my family. And so, a friend in Ohio actually sent me a message saying they've already been impacted by rolling blackouts. Doctors have added surcharges or fees to their already astronomical prices, and if you don't agree to the increase, they won't even see you. My wife's PCP sent her a message saying she's going to join this new medical group, and she'll do you a favor if you sign up with her moving to this new group. She'll let you pay only $50 for the year, but next year is gonna be $100, and each year thereafter is gonna be $100. But she ain't doing you no favor because she's going to start with this new medical group at the 6 month mark. So she ain't giving you a discount. She just told you what it would be for 6 months. And there's some different other fees that other doctors are charging. And so fertilizer has become scarce. Well, you don't think that's a problem? What do you think they're growing your produce with? The BRICS coalition, and BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those countries have actually gotten together, and they done went warp speed to come off the U.S. dollar. But the system knows a great deal of people cannot think, so the useless people in D.C. got you focused on an event that happened before the presidential inauguration in 2021. And for good measure, just to make sure you remain distracted away from all of this disaster that's going on under your president, Joe Biden, they gave you the Roe versus Wade decision. And a lot of people all upset about that. But see, here we go again. We don't understand the Constitution. The Supreme Court returned the rights back to the states, which is where it should have stayed all the time. It should have never been put in the hands of the Supreme Court. And if you even understand that the woman that they used to push Roe versus Wade never had an abortion. And I heard a lot of women say, well, you know, men shouldn't be making decisions about women's bodies. Well, did you realize in 1973 the Supreme Court was made up of nothing but men that made a decision about women's bodies? So you can't pick and choose what you want to choose like that. You're a hypocrite. Long as that men are making decisions in your favor, you're okay with it. But men make a decision that pisses you off, and all of a sudden, here we are in this society. Well, men trying to control everything. Well, in reality, it's always going to be a patriarchal society. Anytime you try to get into a matriarchal society, that's why you have the chaos you have now. But I might have to do another video on that another day. So while the people are focused on those issues, life is getting a lot tougher for those same people. Sadly, many of you are going to go out and vote for the same people who have done nothing to alleviate anything to help the people over the last few years. Joe Biden is talking about a gas tax holiday to go through September. But his people said that that would take money away from the infrastructure, which they haven't done anything to yet anyway. The savings are supposed to amount to 18 cents a gallon. So what? Uh, Instead of paying $4.99, you're gonna pay $4.81. This situation also has retailers losing people because the businesses are hurting. What did it cost in gas for you to go to work at this time last year? What does it cost now? One of my cars could be filled up a year ago for about $35, and that to me almost letting it get empty. You know, one thing when my grandmother and I used to travel a lot together, and she would always get mad at me. My grandmother was the type of person when a car got to half a tank, she would fill it up. And we traveled a lot, and following my cousin playing football, following our dream. We used to bowl together, one time, and so we traveled together a lot, me and her. And she would always say, "Boy, that E doesn't stand for extra gas." Because I like to drive, and because I want to get the full amount when I fill up. And so about a year ago, I could fill my car up for about $35. Yeah, that's right below a quarter tank. Now to fill my car today at the same amount of gas is gonna it costs $75. Now my car uses regular gas. My wife's car has a bigger gas tank, and she been driving my car, especially since I've been at the hospital. For people that drive cars using premium gas, whew, I mean, let me ask a question. Did you get a raise on your job equal to the rise in just gas prices? If not, you're losing money. I saw a lady on a video the other day say it took her $90 to fill her vehicle. And then I saw another guy who said to fill up his SUV was $92 just to fill the tank at the halfway point. Now, let's take my car for example. $35 a year ago and $75 today. That's a $40 increase a week, which totals about $160 a month. Now, that's 160 extra. Over the course of the year, that's an extra $2,080 a year that we're not used to spending. And I know a lot of you out there have vehicles with premium gas tanks, and a lot of you out there have cars with bigger gas tanks than me. So we're not used to spending $2,000, and I'm just using my car as an example. You put the math to your vehicle and see how much extra you having to spend each year. I talked with a friend here recently who told me his light bill for the last month was $600. I used to buy ground beef for $2.99 a pound. And what does it cost now? If you can catch it on sale, you might be able to get it for $3.99. I used to buy I eat brown rice. And I used to buy brown rice for 50 cents a bag. And I mean that was 50 cents a bag forever. Forever. And that same rice now is $1.19 for the same bag. Shipping costs used to be reasonable for most online shopping. And because of the increase of um, those costs are drastically getting ready to change. I got an email from a company I shop with, and they said to ship anything over 6 pounds going forward, starting in a week, they're going to add a $1 fee to each item that's 6 pounds or more. And they have to do it because the transportation companies, the delivery companies, have increased their fees because the price to run their trucks has substantially increased. So they're not going to eat that loss. They're going to pass it on to the consumer, which is you and I. A year ago, me and my wife went shopping one day, grocery shopping, and bought some bush beans in a can for 99 cents. And that same can right today is now $2.99. You still asleep? Are you still asleep? You better wake up. And I mean, Sometimes when I talk to people, their ignorance just spews out of their mouth, and they say, "Well, prices are gonna keep increasing." Well, I'll never deny that prices are gonna increase, but at the rate they're increasing, that's not normal. I don't care who you are. So get your head out the sand and get some common sense. A year ago, we could buy a head of lettuce for $1.49.99 if they ran a sale. That same head of lettuce today costs $2.49, and the heads are substantially smaller. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm just recognizing what's happening around me and to me. You can keep your head in the sand if you want to. This is a little different, like I said, than the content I normally share. But I think it needs to be told. I just think some folks need a slap across the head. I recently read an article that said they are trying to implement a credit system to determine your carbon footprint. And if they think you do something as simple as eat too much meat, they will shut your credit down. Yeah, it's going to be a card like a credit card. And I mean, not like they can't access what you're spending your money on now, but they're going to be definitely monitoring on purpose what you're spending your money on so they can see what you're buying. And you will be assigned a carbon footprint number to let them know if you get out of line. You buy too many products that using carbon. And then, like I said earlier, Biden's press secretary said the economy is doing good. I mean, it does good for them. You know, like Jen Psaki, the press secretary that just left. You know, her yearly income salary was $183,000 a year, and it's amazingly in a 2 year period of $183,000 each year, she made $27 million. I mean, I like exponential math. Just get in economics, give me some of it. Now, over 8 million people on the verge of being evicted out of their apartments or homes that they're renting, mortgages as well. Sadly, I can almost guarantee you that they voted for Joe Biden. Only 23% of people in New York can actually afford rent right now. We know how the majority of the people vote there. New gun control laws have been passed. First of all, if a bipartisan bill ever passes, we the people are the ones who are gonna lose. One item in the bipartisan bill is red flag laws, and I shared the bill with someone, and that's supposed to be conservative, and they said, "Well, I don't see anything in that bill that would hurt the people." Well, that shows a misunderstanding of red flag laws. And what happens is red flag law said a person that's mentally unstable can't own a firearm. Well, that sounds good in theory. The bad side of that is that anyone can make a phone call to authorities and tell them you're mentally unstable. Nobody has to prove it. You have to prove that you're not, just because somebody made a claim, even if it's false. Think about violation of our rights, as I mentioned earlier. In almost every case, our rights have been violated by the people we elected to protect them. Every day, more than 200 pages of new rules are written by legislators, and in reality, that's an old figure. I think that figure was from right before the turn of the century, and so ain't no telling how many pages of rules they write today now today. And so, what are we getting? If we elected good people to political positions, we would have a better country. And let me tell you something. Today, good people don't win political seats because scum backs up scum to get them in the office so they can do favors. Good people don't get financial support to win elections. You think that's on purpose or accident? In less than a year and a half, look at everything that has happened. Yet, many of you think Biden is doing a good job. I don't know where your head is, but had the exact same scenario happen under Donald Trump, many of you would be so loud and vocal that only dogs could hear you communicate. A friend shared with me that he had a conversation with someone, and before the election, last presidential election, and warned what would happen under the third Obama administration. My bad. I mean, a Joe Biden administration. And the person told my friend they didn't care what would happen under Biden. They just wanted Trump gone. Well, I'm just kind of wondering how that buyer's remorse is right now because the we the people are getting it, as Ice Cube said, with no Vaseline.